Life Origami, living a serene life, and today we're talking about the 4 laws of individuality and the 8 powers of engagement, how you can engage these laws and work with these laws.
Yeah. So we wanted to start with the 4 laws of individuality.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about an individual, we talk about the character and of that person and how they are different from other people.
Not necessarily, not the bad characters.
No such thing as bad characters, just different characters.
Just different characters, that's right.
Yes.
Oh,
So
need my pencil. Anyways, carry on.
yeah, so these laws are like this base or foundation that every person is subject to, just like gravity. That's an example. And they have this core need that keeps them going, that keeps them running congruently or not. So they're all things that are necessary to be solid in order for us to be
And
doing
who they
well.
are.
Yes,
As
and individually,
individuals.
because we all have, we're all subject to these laws, but we all have to work with them maybe a little bit more here or there in order to maintain equilibrium, because equilibrium is really important. I don't like to use the word balance because balance means something is static and it's like this, right? And life is not like that. It's very dynamic and things are always coming at you. So, you might think of it more as a synthesizer or something, right? You got the treble and the bass and all that going up and down. So you might think of it that way. And these laws cannot be engaged without the powers of engagement. There's 8 powers of engagement that are necessary in order for those laws to even be...
To work. Well, they're work for us to intentionally use them.
Yes.
For us to intentionally to engage with the laws. So, like, for example, the way a toddler deals with the law of gravity differently than a svelte athlete.
Or somebody who has a cane, or somebody who's drunk.
Right.
Has to walk the line.
Yeah. But so
Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
So the laws of gravity are working for all of us. They influence us differently.
Yeah.
Just like the laws of individuality and the 8 powers of engagement, we interact with them. We might use them. I have spent a lot of time with 2 particular powers in my lifetime: communication and connection, and which we'll talk about a little bit later. But the 4 basic laws are balanced, are all working on with each individual, and how we work with them is going to be different, and that's where the equilibrium, we create equilibrium. So for example, I may not have to do as much work to create equilibrium in certain aspects of my life as it relates to communication, but I have I've been working for a decade at self-care, which we're giving you a little bit of a hint, but you'll see what's going to come up in the video about what's coming with the 4 laws.
But if you have an equilibrium amongst those 4 laws, then the side effects that happen are like you become more focused, you have clarity, you become unshakable because you know who you are. You know who you are inside, your value, your frame of reference, your values, your beliefs, morals, ethics, principles, faith. You know who you are, you know who you're not.
Who are you? Who? That's by The Who.
The Who, of course.
Who
the Who
had a hit song called Who Are You?
Who are you? Yeah.
Go figure.
Well, they know who they are. The Who's know who they are. That's like Whoville, right?
They're from Whoville.
The Grinch Whoville. The Who's from Whoville.
The Grinch.
So they know what they want, and they're willing and ready to learn and change and to be curious and infinitely flexible, as you mentioned, to get where they want to go. And you can only do that if everything is all contained properly together. You're not like some scattered squirrel all over the place. you got it. You've got it all in balance, and let's talk
Right.
about what those balances are, so we
Yeah.
can be more
One,
specific.
and one of them we're going to be coming up. We'll be talking about is around awareness and around the importance of awareness, and it's really pretty foundational. And
Yeah.
and it's one of the first things we talk about. It's in the first law. So what do you say? Should we get into that now?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So let's start with
Awesome.
the 4 laws of individuality.
First law we want to talk about is the law of self-care.
Right.
So if you've watched any of the videos up to this point, you know that I really had no self-care consciousness 11 years ago. 10 years ago, there was this big 2008, 2009, there's this big awareness that I had self-care, schmelf-care, what the heck is that? You know, to me, self-care was shit, shower, shave, and shampoo. Oops. That's what, when I worked in the service station, that's what we used to call it.
I've heard it before.
But you know, that was self-care.
Yeah.
I would eat, I would have a coffee, I would drink water, whatever. That was self-care.
Well, for me, self-care, when I think of it, I think of when I was younger, I did not get the medical attention that I needed.
Right.
And how do I say this politely? There was a narcissist in my family.
Right.
And so my needs were not met. And so I tended to not take my physical health seriously because I learned that it wasn't important, that other
Well, you were in
people more
survival.
important.
Like
Yes, I was short, you know.
Yeah, and you're short, and exactly, you're not the adult in those years.
Yeah, but I grew up to think that I wasn't important that way. So if I got sick, I was always the martyr, right? You always go to work, unless you're bleeding, you go to work. That kind of thing. So if I got sick, or when I was having a baby or something, I was maybe should have been off my feet.
Right.
But I wasn't off my feet. I was doing stuff. The doctor said stay off your feet, but I didn't anyway because.
So that's a very good point you raise. That there's something you need to be doing, should be doing, or somebody should be doing for you, and it wasn't happening, and that brings up the need for our self-care to be congruent. So everybody's level of self-care, or the areas of self-care that they need, is going to be different.
There's so many levels. I read something once. They had somebody had a wheel of different aspects of self-care. There was nutrition.
Right.
There was
finance,
exercise, finance,
relationships.
Yeah. Geez, I can't.
Yeah, I mean,
there was so many components of it.
Right.
So I think if you are lagging in one end and doing excessively more in another, like for instance, you're exercising like crazy, but you're not eating well, that's going to wreak havoc on your body. But
you're overcompensating in one area. You're really strong in one area, but really weak in another.
Yeah, like when I was in university, I had to study before midterms and finals, right? So I would do these 14-day stretches of all day long, right? So I would pack all my books up in the morning, take like loads of food, go there and sit there and power study for 14 days, and then go write my exam. So I was writing notes on notes on notes and writing notes on the notes.
And I've seen you do that. It's a very interesting process.
And I had to compensate for not getting the sleep. So what did I do? I ate. I constantly ate and nibbled on everything I could think, and I always gained weight during midterms. You know,
that'd be kind of like a bodybuilder that only works his right arm. Only works his right arm, and you know he's
Popeye on one side,
Popeye on one side, and
Stephen Urkel on the other.
Yeah, exactly. Good analogy. But that's literally what happens. That's not congruent.
No.
Right?
And there's other parts of self-care too, like for when I was a businesswoman, you know, I'm a mom. I have to take care of a property. I was essentially a single mom in a relationship.
Right.
That's how it was.
So
So, and opening a business and running a business and then taking care of the kids, running them to the daycare, taking them to swimming, all that. When do you have time for yourself? So you take time
Right.
to just do your hair, sit in there, read a book, time to go for a walk, time to make sure that, let's say you have to go get your vaccination, make sure you go down and do it. Or, there's just something that you need to do for yourself. Let's say you have to
look after your well-being.
Yeah, like some people won't even go buy themselves clothes, right? It's like, well, we get so busy, we don't think about it, and we're
Right.
walking around in tattered clothes, or they're too tight, they got stains or whatever, and they're like, oh, they'll do, I'm going to just give my money away for this instead, and I'm not important, I'm good, I'm the martyr.
Right.
But self-care is very important.
And so achieving some level, so the purpose of self-care is to achieve some level of well-being, and part of that well-being is we need to develop an awareness of the stuff, the positive things and the negative things. What's the plus sign and the minus sign is here?
Yeah.
Is that we have to be aware of those things that are working and those things that aren't working.
Yeah.
As it relates to our well-being, so we can then compensate for it.
Like, for instance, sometimes we need to slow down, right? Sometimes we get burnt
Right.
out, and we may need a little more sleep, and maybe not so much running around in the evenings. Just stay home, go to bed early, do a little more calm things instead of drinking and going out or to concerts. Maybe that's just not the time to be doing that, right? And sometimes we just don't take care of our needs. Like, maybe we need to be going to the clinic more often, or maybe we need to see a counselor, and we're not taking the time out to do that.
Thank you for going there, because I was going to say the video before this one, we talked about emotions, feelings and emotions ping pong. In the last video 4 before this particular one that we're recording, and we talked about ease, living with ease, the emotional, emotional autonomy, self-reliance, education is what ease stood for.
And I'm thinking about ease then, like this ping pong emotional feelings effect, where it's boomeranging around there, and there's this negative feedback thing. If you're going to counseling, let's say, or you're just going to go talk to somebody who'll listen and help you to figure things out.
Friend.
Yeah. Then if you're taking the time to do that, you're supporting your health and well-being, right?
Right.
So self-care, if you have an emotional problem going on, like something's happened, you're grieving or whatever it is, taking the time to take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you ever heard of this, then you can't take care of anybody else, your kids, your elderly parents, whatever it is.
So that's what's going on inside us, between our ears, inside our person. That's the primary focus of the well-being. A lot of things you talked about in terms of eating and going to see a doctor or things like that. Those are things that we do, but for our intents and purposes, we're talking about well-being in terms of being conscious, being aware of the positive, negative influences, and what's my internal temperature? What's my mental temperature?
So you're saying, like, part of self-care then is taking care of yourself, maybe in many ways, like the way you talk to yourself. Trying to find out what you're thinking and why, maybe what's related to why you're feeling sad and you don't know what. It might be
exactly because I walk. So we kind of joked around Linus.
It's Linus.
Pigpen.
Pigpen. Okay.
Pigpen walking around. He's got a cloud that follows him around. And he smells, and he's got the flies flying around his head and all of that, right? I mean, he's kind of oblivious to it, and we can get oblivious because of all the activities of life. Some of the things you talked about, going to school, studying for exams, cramming for exams, all those different things.
Work,
I got the deadlines, we got this, we got that. The kids, I need to cook a meal, all that stuff.
So you're talking about a little bit more about thought baggage, maybe.
Yes, it's about what's going on primarily, what's going on between our ears.
Yeah.
Because the other stuff that you mentioned is what we would probably refer to as security-related self-care priorities. So, for example, making sure you have food.
Or
medicine, or that you're safe, that you don't feel like you're going to wake up and somebody's going to try to assault you.
Or walking down the street, like
right.
If you've got a problem with PTSD and you hear somebody walking behind you with these boots and it reminds you of your ex who wore these cowboy boots, and you're worried about him stalking you or whatever, you tense up and and then you're scared and you think that it's him.
Right.
But if you feel secure,
right,
inside, maybe your emotions. PTSD is different though, but if you got
it is different.
You deal with your feelings and your emotions and what's happening inside, you'll feel a little more secure. For instance, knowing who you are, and who you're not. And you're not
what you stand for, what your values are.
What you don't. And then when you come across something that comes in your way or somebody, you feel secure and solid inside to know who you are so that you can take on the challenge of what might come at you. So there's this secure feeling inside.
Exactly, because if you don't have that secure feeling, and you add to all that stuff you just mentioned, some stuff is coming at you, how are you going to cope? Because you cope, we cope based on our internal temperature, our mindset, what goes on between our ears, that thought life, perspective, beliefs, perceptions, our values, our morals, our ethics, what our personal code.
There's an example is that in my family, they're part of this religious denomination. I've mentioned it before in other videos, where they believe that the world is a bad place. It's evil, and they're out to get you. And if you have anything to do with the world,
core belief, right?
If you have anything to do with the world, you will not be good enough, and nobody else is going to associate with you. God's not going to love you. He's going to kick you off the family tree. And so you walk around thinking that the world is evil, and that it's going to come to an end. So this changes your decisions maybe on your financial investments.
Totally colors your way you see the world, right?
How you see people, if you're friendly to them, if you want to engage in friendships, if you're just scared that everybody's out to get you. If you then change your own beliefs and say, okay, that's their belief.
Right.
I really believe there's a lot of good people out there.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of awesome people. And they weren't of that religion. And I can't see this idea, this dogma that those people, because they don't have their club sticker, that they're not good enough.
Well, the key is what you think.
Well, right, that's the thing.
That's
so
the
if
point,
I feel now kind of free, knowing that I don't believe their projections and their judgments, I don't buy into the blame, shame, guilt anymore. So I feel secure. So if I run into those people now and they want to give me a shovel of the old guilt trip, I'll just say without any shame, that's just not me. I'm sorry. And I don't feel like I have to even stand there and talk to them because I'm not interested in toxicity anymore, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so security can be other things too. That's a really great example of a before and after. When I first started embracing self-care, it was a big thing for me to not work and to not care for the family and to take myself out to M-O-V-I-E, to a movie.
Did you
by
ever
myself.
do it?
Oh, I did a lot. I started doing it every single month. I did it. It was a big deal. It was my first tentative step into self-care, where I would remove myself from all of my responsibilities and do what I needed to do. Now, obviously, I've grown.
You know what's different is last year when we got married, we went you're always been self-employed as
Right.
a coach for like 30 plus years, and we got married, and I was not pursuing a job now. We're self-employed, right? Which
Right.
is total different.
Right.
And sometimes I feel guilty that in the afternoon, everybody else is out working hard, and
We've already put in a full day.
yeah, it's like we just have the time. If we want to go for a walk, we can. We just work around it. If we want to have a nap in the day,
Right.
we can. If we want to if I want to cook a nice meal in the afternoon, I feel guilty having the freedom that we have created for ourselves. And so sometimes,
So that's the thing about reminding ourselves about that, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's like feeling, I guess, security versus insecurity.
Well, I think what you're leading up to,
Okay.
you know what's coming,
Okay.
self-expression. One of the next law of individuality is self-expression. Because what we're doing through this business is a big, huge part of self-expression.
And it can be tiring too. When we're doing videos, our video is an hour, but it probably takes, by the time we prepare and we run
Finish it.
we got to finish
3,
it.
4, 5 hours
upload
or
it
more, yeah.
for 1 hour video.
Yep.
And it's a full day. By the time
Yep.
we're finished, we have to set up the lights and the cameras and set up all the electronics and then there's we should have a bloopers video. There's the bloopers that we
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were doing sound check. And I have my own dictionary going, I think, now.
Yeah.
Some colorful language once, but
in terms of self-expression,
yeah.
I think that there's a drive in each and every one of us to express ourselves, and we're expressing ourselves right now. We tap into the law of self-expression
Yeah.
when we have conversations with people.
Yeah, meaningful, deep conversations.
When we have communication, that is meaningful, deep, and that feels important to us.
I have another way of self-expression rather than just talking. I communicate in another way too. It's not ESP and it's not osmosis. It's painting.
Right.
It's creativity, and
Yeah.
even the way I decorate my house, whether I'm wearing blue that day or red that day, or my hair is red, or if I'm green or whatever. It's a way I express myself, because for me, who I am inside,
Right.
I want to express it.
You're following your heart.
So the environment I'm in, the people I talk with, what my conversation is,
Right.
what's made up of.
Right.
It's all ways of expressing myself, but for me though, self-expression is from the heart, right?
Right.
And I want my interactions and my connections to be meaningful, and I want to feel my life is significant as a result of having meaning in my life, which brings us to the next point, which is connection. Wanting to make connection with ourselves.
I'm just coloring.
A connection with ourselves, but also connection with other people. And when we can
Right.
connect one another with one another, then
Now, when we experience that communication, that connection, that's where the feeling of significance and meaningfulness in our lives comes from. Because the way I look at this law is, the reason we chose self-expression as a law is, can I feel that my life is meaningful without heartfelt, real dialogue, meaningful communication? For me, the answer is no.
yeah,
Because I cannot. Because then I'm going to struggle to connect. Because if I can't have that meaningful communication, I end up having to try to project what this person's about. I have to try to make it up in my head to make a connection with them. because as human beings, I believe one of our core qualities is the ability to connect. At our heart, at our very core of our being, we are driven to connect with another soul.
I don't think we can live in a vacuum or a bubble.
Right.
Live on an island with no one to talk to. We'd all go crazy. And sometimes being in a relationship that is really gnarly.
Yeah.
You feel lonely and there's no expression between the two of you because you're not connecting. You're doing nothing but maybe bulldozing each other over or control or neglect or whatever is happening. So self-expression is very important for relationships of all types. So yes, connection.
Otherwise we end up being like Tom Hanks in that movie where he's stranded
talking to his ball,
talking to the Wilson, the soccer ball. I mean, he survived. That's the story.
Wilson.
Wilson.
Sorry, Wilson.
Did you know Wilson? But no, seriously, I think that the need for self-care. The reason we started with self-care because I think it's so important. It's so overlooked and it's not talked about a lot. It's talked about a lot more than it was a decade ago when I first started embracing it. And self-expression is so. These two go together so well because in terms of the way a form of my self-expression can also be a form of my self-care. In terms of how we choose to shop for groceries, the types of foods we choose, how we choose to eat and prepare the food is a form of self-expression. How we choose to dress is an obvious form of self-expression. From the logos we choose for our businesses to whatever. It's all a form of self-expression. And, the type of job we have and the title we have is a label that gives us status and meaning. And
well, I have to be around people. I'm a real social person.
Right.
And I love being around people. I love meeting different people. I love having conversations. Yeah. And I'm not the kind of person who, is more introverted. I'm not extremely extroverted. I'm a nice in between there. And connection is really important. And communication, you think about a baby that's born.
Right.
If it doesn't get the touchy, loving, motherly, fatherly type of affection,
that's a
you
very
need
good
affection,
point.
Right? And that's why we're talking about the heart.
Yeah.
There's a everybody has this need to connect and communicate. And there's also another type of connection, which is part of what we said already in the self-care, is connecting with yourself.
Right.
And communication with yourself.
That's huge. It's a very good point. I'm really glad you brought that up because to the degree that I have a good connection and I'm able to communicate with myself about what's important to me, it directly affects my ability to express myself, and because it will cloud what I believe is possible for me. It will shape what I believe is okay to do, and it literally either empowers me or disempowers me to the degree of the quality communication I have with myself and with others, and it directly affects the connection I have with myself. My awareness, my conviction, and my sense of identity, my sense of individuality as a person directly affects my ability to connect with other people and to communicate with them. It's very closely tied, isn't it?
Well, I was thinking about my communication with myself. If I'm telling myself negative things like, you're not enough, you're broken, you're stupid, I wish you were dead, that kind of stuff. If I said that stuff to myself and I walked around thinking that I'm not enough, then my self-care is going to go kaputs.
Right.
Right. Because I don't think I'm worthy. I don't think that's what feeling whether you're enough. It's about worth.
Right.
And how you talk to yourself. It's also maybe depends on how you feel. If you feel worthy, right?
Yeah.
That you deserve good
things. And that affects your progress, which is the next law.
Yes, it affects exactly what you can do. Like whether you can get out of an abusive relationship and get to that women's shelter, right? If you keep saying, well, I can't live without him, I need him to beat me up because I'm a bad person, you don't take care of yourself, maybe you don't take care of the kids, who knows?
Yep.
But you don't make the progress,
Correct.
right? Because you don't have
clarity.
Your head is all jumbled
Clouded,
up inside.
Confused.
You got the Eeyore cloud.
Right, because we're so busy worried about what other people are thinking, or trying to serve other people, trying to get along with people, and we don't take time out for ourselves in their self-care to be able to, what does my well-being look like today? What does your well-being look like today? If you're watching this video, you're practicing well-being because you're investing in growing yourself and expanding your horizons and your perspective.
There is this huge dynamic that happens in here when you're in a codependent relationship. You know what I mean? Your connection and your communication with that person is just so skewed back
to
and
one
forth.
direction.
And your self-care becomes very, it really goes down the toilet when you are connected to a person and communicating with them in a codependent relationship. So you can't make progress. Your clarity is all mumble-jumbled. And there was some other point too about the codependent relationships.
We'll come back to that because I want to make a point to the people watching here that these items here, well-being, security, connection, communication, those are the powers of engagement that allow us to leverage and intentionally apply the laws of individuality to our lives. I think
that makes sense. I like how you said that. That makes sense.
Does it?
Yeah, exactly. So if in order to engage self-care, self-expression, and progress, then those laws, then we have to be able to use those powers of engagement there. They should be present in order to
consciously use them because they're always working, right? To a certain degree, at different levels.
Consciously affect them then, right?
So we can use these powers to affect the laws of self-care. We use the power of well-being and security to affect our safety and have some congruent self-care. I can use the powers of connection and communication to engage with people and with myself and with life to express myself. And then I can, in terms with the other law, third law is the law of clarity. That we need clarity, and in order to have clarity, we all struggle and strive for control in our lives. And we're also striving to try to get some things done, to achieve some things. But in order to achieve those things, we need the skills to be able to achieve and get things done. But in order to control our lives, we need to have some kind of plan. In order to have a plan, I have to have somewhere I want to go, something I want to experience more of in my life, some result or destination that I want to go to. In order to have progress and have the clarity to be able to put the plan together, to be able to achieve what I need to do and say, okay, I need to do this, and I have no idea how to do that one thing, so I'm going to go take a course, I'm going to go study, I'm going to hire a coach, whatever that is, to get that clarity so I can keep the ball of progress moving forward.
Yeah, so to be able to make achievements, cultivate the skills that you need, and create the control so that you can get the plan. All those require being able to think and plan and communicate and connect with other people and with yourself.
Right.
Because there's a big dynamic that goes on when you are making a plan, figuring out what you want, coming up with a vision, coming up with the what you need to do to get there. That's all. That all takes clarity. That all takes congruence inside to have that clarity, which would be self-expression, self-care.
Yeah.
Those are your base foundation components that have to be there in order to reach the clarity so you can get into action in mode. Right? That's
and you
progress.
got to have the support of the self-care support and the self-expression support to be able to do it as well. Otherwise you won't even start. Because there's going to be people, as soon as you talk about vision, you talk about having something that you don't have, and the people around you have never done what you've done, what are they going to do? Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think you should do that. You know,
devil's
that's
advocate.
not what we do in our family.
Iago on your shoulder, right?
The devil's advocate. It
Yeah.
could be just that they don't believe you can, and they could be very assertive and destructive.
I think that's based on their own mindsets, though, how limited they are and what they think they
But
can
we still have
achieve,
to live with them.
right?
If they're our family, unless we choose not to, our family and friends, we choose to be with them or not be with them.
Or decrease your time with them, or
Exactly.
yeah.
Now,
So interesting.
I think that whole codependence thing that you brought up,
Yes.
that does what I was codependent in some other relationships, we'll put it that way, and in all of them I surrendered my powers.
So
On a certain degree, I surrendered my powers.
and so we're talking about being able to get into this part of the cycle, or
Right.
this part
We're
of the
going
laws.
clockwise, yeah.
Is that if you're stuck here in a codependent situation, aren't you isn't that kind of like a rock, shackled to your foot, so you can't walk and do the things you want? Maybe you don't dream
exactly.
or go and
You're
pursue
weighted
what you
down.
want to,
Yeah.
because you're there in a relationship where you feel you have to serve the other people, and they feel they each need each other, and none of them can get on with their life. None of them can get
Right.
on with making plans, going after what they want, because they got this negative interaction happening. Their self-care.
Well, in my experience of living in a codependent relationship is they didn't want me to exercise any of this stuff. They want all this stuff for them.
So when you were trying to write a book,
Yeah.
that was really tough.
Yeah, because they felt like they were losing out on that I was leaving them behind. Because
you were their entertainment, right?
Because I was their entertainment, and they didn't care about my well-being. They were only concerned about their security and safety. They were, connection. It was all about them. So in the case of the codependent relationships, this is not self-care. It's them care. It's them expressing themselves and them making sure that they're making progress, and they're going to try to control me. So all of these things, these laws are working even in codependent relationships, even though we are not consciously using these laws. The laws are working. It's like gravity is working. Cause and effect works. It's tough. It's kind of tough to look at this stuff,
I think now we're getting down, like when we first started talking about this at the beginning of the video, I knew that when we started getting into examples, we'd start to see how what a foundation each of these are.
Yes.
When you look now, so far we've only covered 3/4 of this one sketch, is you can see now the dynamics of these laws of individuality, how they vary so greatly according to the person, who they are inside, and how they connect, how they communicate, how secure they feel, what their well-being is like, how much they have control over their future, control over their now, their present, whether they have the ability to make a plan, develop a plan, implement a plan,
right,
and achieve,
and
to create the
look after
skills
themselves at
to
the
get
same
it.
time.
Yeah,
After themselves, make sure that they're not risking it all, and being able to communicate and connect with others to make it all happen. Because the interesting thing is that, we're talking about mastery now. That's the other law. The other law is mastery. You led us into it very nicely, because
it just flows.
Because this process is this clockwise formation is kind of this wheel of the laws of individuality. It just works because the very successful people I've worked with, and people there's the very successful people, and then there's the people, very, very successful people I would call masters. They're very different. They knew who they were. They knew what they wanted. They were willing and ready to learn and do whatever. And their level of curiosity was tangible. It was palpable. They were the most interesting people to be around because they were so committed to the journey of learning and being.
It's so cool to be in their presence too. Like they're so passionate, you know, and you can have a conversation with them, and it's not shallow, right? They've always got something to talk about, and it's just so interesting, like because they're expressing to you their interests and their curiosities and things they've learned, and it finally comes across to you just how they chase after the curiosity, and you're so interested in what they're doing, and then you come away from saying, yeah, you know, I should do that too. I've been meaning to do this or to experience that. And
they inspire you just by their actions. And you ask them a question, they'll go, that's a good question. Actually, I've been working on that a little bit, and I've been thinking about changing this and this. And every master I've ever met, they're absolutely, they have a death-like grip on the result, on the outcome that they're looking to achieve, but they are so infinitely flexible on how they're going to get there because they know that they need to execute, that there needs to be execution. They know that they need to be in action. The question is it the right action at the right time,
for the right
on
reason.
the right thing, for the right reasons? Because when you're doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons at the wrong time, it's a disaster. We've all experienced that where it just doesn't work. And the other interesting thing to me is just when in the master people the few masters I've met in my lifetime, the level of willingness that they have, their open-mindedness, the fact that they are not, they are not so full of themselves that they know everything. And to me, I've always said, we were talking to a client recently, and our client was expressing the fact that, well, no, I think I got things handled. I said, you know what? That's kind of a dangerous place to be. Because when I think I know how things are.
Complacency. You get lazy and you think that you've got it all handled, and you don't try to do anything new.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting. I knew somebody who was going to church. Well, they were supposed to go, and they didn't. And I said, why? And she said, well, I have heard this sermon before. I know this one. I know this subject. I've read this part of the Bible. And I said, well, is it the same person giving the same talk? And she says, no. And I said, so the content is not going to be the same. It's a different person's perspective, right? And you can always learn more.
Right.
You're always got to be willing to learn more and open yourself up. Don't close yourself off and say, oh, I know it all, right? There's always a chance to learn and be curious. And
exactly, because our cycle through this is a clockwise, but it's also a kind of a spiral effect. Because what we're doing is the more we go through this cycle, self-care, self-expression, progress, mastery, self-care, self-expression, progress, mastery, we're going deeper and deeper inside.
And that could be up or down, though. That could be a biofeedback that's negative or positive, depending on how congruent you are and your equilibrium. I'm not going to say balance. I'm going to say equilibrium, because there's always powers coming at us from different directions, and the whole idea is to stay afloat, right?
So the laws of individuality and the powers, so the 8 powers of engagement. So if we take a look at the 8 powers of engagement, they are well-being, security, connection, communication, the willingness and the ability to achieve, to control, execute, and the willingness to learn. Those are the key. Those are the powers of engagement. That's how we engage these laws. It's how we begin to consciously use the laws. Everybody goes for a walk, but there are some people that go for a walk very intentionally to meditate. It's called a walking meditation. There are people who do power walking as a form of exercise. That's using the law of gravity in a different way. And what's different? The law of gravity. Has the law of gravity changed? No, it's just their use.
It's the same.
Their intention that they brought to it. Same way, the law of self-care, the law of self-expression, progress and mastery, how we choose to engage them and use them. This is a framework that we are going to be teaching people in our Living Serene Life program, that you'll be able to actively apply these powers to engage these laws for your individual well-being. Because we think that the days of cookie cutter training and coaching and one size fits all is over. And everything that we're doing here is to serve you. And everything we do, the training, the teaching is going to be universal, but how you apply it to your life is what's going to be different. And we're going to be there with our clients while they're trying to learn how to apply these powers of engagement to the laws of individuality. We're not just going to teach you, love you, and leave you.
Yeah. And the idea is to help you figure things out so that you can do that without always having to have a coach. If you learn the skills and the principles and all, and you have the tools we're going to give you that you can keep using them over and over.
Yep.
If you have those things, and you're going to develop more on your own too, you're going to see what happens for you. Maybe something we give you won't work, but you'll tweak it. In the end, though, what it does is it's going to help you learn to move forward and to grow.
Right, and the truth is we've given you enough information here. You could take any one of these things and probably, if you were intelligent enough, did the research, and you were aware enough, you could probably learn through it. However, what you can do with a coach, with a group of coaches, and Amy and I coach together now, is you're going to accelerate your learning curve. You're going to get to where you want to go a little bit quicker, and probably with a greater level, a number of distinctions and insights that you may never have, that you couldn't have possibly appreciated before.
Yeah. I just wish there wasn't so much cause and effect in my younger years, you know?
Yeah.
Raising kids, not really having someone to call up and say, you know, baby has a diaper rash, or so you end up trying like all these things till you finally find something that works, right? Or it's like going through this learning curve, or more like for me, one of those mazes, those corn mazes. You know, but if somebody gave you the map,
right,
how to get your butt out of there before it's sundown,
right. And,
you know,
every corn maze I've been to, they always have a tower.
Yeah.
You can climb up the tower to look if you can get to the tower.
Yeah.
So that you can look to see where you're at.
And there's secrets too that they have applied to these mazes, so you can learn your way through them. Each maze has a type of
so we're talking
pattern.
Right.
Know?
So we're talking about overcoming the chaos, confusion, and anxiety in our lives, so that we get clarity, feel confident, and we can make and be decisive. Because we believe that with the new mindset and new skills, with the support, mentoring, and coaching, so that you can actually implement it, that we call transformational change. And that's our goal. That's our objective. And so thank you for listening today. I think
we're...
anything else we need to do?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we've talked about these 4 laws and the 8 powers of engagement. And now that we know it, we don't just leave it up in the air. We actually have now a tool that we use to take advantage of understanding and knowing these laws now. And I think that would be something that would be awesome for our next video, is to talk about that, what we call
the navigational
wheel.
We'll bring that up in the next. That's a very good point.
I think that'll
so
be the
these laws and these powers you can use in your life navigation wheel. And when people go into our full program, they're going to be able. They're going to get a custom assessment based on their particular situation in their life, to know where they need, which laws in their life need attention. Most people probably already know. But which powers?
They might think they're doing good.
They might think they're doing good, or that it's a degree of improvement, and which laws or which powers they need to apply to engage the laws, and then we work and customize strategies for them. But that's in our other program, the Living a Serene Life program.
So I just wanted to mention that there's a reason we brought this up. Because now, knowing this information, we can do something with it. You know, it's just like when you're working with DNA and cancer and stuff like that. You don't know how to work them or manipulate the DNA and stuff if you don't know the information about how they work. So that's the thing, is we have the information now. So let's use the wheel.
So you're now going to have a steering wheel for your ship.
We're going to actually
the ship of you.
So we're actually going to make use of this information.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. That's a great point. Thanks for wrapping it up that way. Yeah. Well, if you have any questions, any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. We know we're throwing a lot of information at you. We're looking actually to try to put this information out there to set up this foundation of information so you folks can understand where we're coming from, what we're trying to achieve with Life Origami. We can't do this without you, and we can continue to live our own lives. But our desire is to truly share this with people and to help you go through the walk of change with yourself, but you don't have to we all go through a walk of change in our lives. We don't have to do it alone.
And I wanted to mention too about the Ease Skill Kit program. It lasts a week. It's a Monday and a Friday and a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it's 4 hours of coaching and training.
Yeah.
And
it's a great way to get you grounded.
It is, and it kind of refreshes you, and we like to call it a ground zero.
A ground zero.
You know, that means you can start again at any point, any moment in your life, because your only point of power is in the now. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here yet. Every now that you are in is when you can make a point. You have that point of power. So you can decide to change the way you're doing things, maybe get into action and make something happen for yourself. At any point you can decide to do it. You just got to be willing and ready to learn and change and be infinitely flexible to get what it is what you want.
Right.
So that's why we've come up with this 1 week program, is to help you to refresh and reboot and reconnect ground, get clarity, and then you're ready. You'd be totally ready to go into the Living a Serene Life program.
And that being said, you could choose to do that or not do that, and you can continue to watch these videos.
Yeah.
We're putting these videos out here for free as our gift to you. But if there's anything anything we've said that's kind of struck a chord with you, please reach out and give us a call.
Yeah, just
reach
give us
us
a phone call.
at 403-307-8281. Ask for Amy or Greg when we answer the phone. Happy to chat with you. Or both of us can talk.
No pressure.
But there's no pressure here. Amy brings up a good point. We have that program available. It was if you want to learn more about it, you can go to video number 4, where we're talking about feelings and emotions ping pong.
That's what the
feelings
name
and
of
emotions
it is,
ping pong.
Yeah.
In there, towards the last half of the video, we go into the Ease Skill Kit. And that's great wrap up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Video 6.
On video 6,
All right.
and we're going to be talking about breaking down.
Let's watch Charlie Brown again.
Oh, close out with Charlie Brown. Oops, that's the wrong one. All right.
Look at Snoopy. He's really going at it. I think in today's...
It's like they're dancing like nobody's watching, but we're watching.
I think Snoopy in this age, he would probably be doing heavy metal or something, right? He is really a cool character. Look at him go.
Yeah.
Well, see you guys.
Have a good one.